Hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our seminar on getting into INSEAD. 3 things you need to know from someone who knows it all. A co-founder of Fortuna Admissions, who is sponsoring this series on getting into the best business schools. Caroline, as you may know, or maybe don't know, had been the admissions director of INSEAD for many years. Caroline, what are the 3 things we really need to know about applying to INSEAD?
So, John, I think the first thing to keep in mind is that the main thing that you need to be aware of is that INSEAD has a lot in common with the top US schools. So, people often focus on what is different about INSEAD and how INSEAD is different when it comes to apply. And people often ask me, what do I need to do differently when it comes to INSEAD? And I think the important thing to keep in mind is also that there's a lot that the school has in common with the top US schools. So they have several criteria in common. And so if you're applying to other schools, you will be familiar with those. So they will be looking at your academic capacity. They're looking at your academic track record. So when they look at your academic ability, they'll be looking at where you studied for your undergraduate degree. They will look at the quality of the institution you attended. They will scrutinize your transcript and see what grades you got. They will look at your GMAT or your GRE. And they'll look at all of those elements together, right? So they're not going to just look at one element in isolation. They're looking to get a sense of your academic ability overall, to get a sense for whether you have the ability to flourish academically at INSEAD, because it is a very rigorous program and it's a one-year program and the pace is very fast. So they want to make sure that you have the ability to keep up with that.
And leadership potential, right, is a big deal.
So leadership potential, yes. So the top schools, regardless of whether you're applying to INSEAD or the other top schools, they will be looking at whether you have the potential to be a business leader in the future. And admissions committees take the perspective that the best predictor of future success is your track record, right? So they will be looking at your results. They'll be looking at whether you're someone who has been on a fast track to date. They will be looking at, whether you've been promoted. They'll be looking at your key achievements. They'll be looking at what your recommenders have to say about you. So they'll be really scrutinizing the details of your professional track record, and also looking at what you want to do in the future. And are you ambitious? And do you have clear career goals? And do those career goals make sense given what you've done in the past? And are you going to be able to really leverage the MBA in the future, and does it make sense? Is there a sort of logical thread in what you want to do going forward? So they'll be looking at your career path, past, present, and future. So yes, academics, leadership, and then they will be looking at your ability to contribute to the program. And that is true for the top US schools, and that is true for INSEAD. So they will be looking at your communication skills, your team building skills. They'll be looking at whether you're a well-rounded person who's going to contribute to the life of the school in the classroom, right? Because there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning, both in the classroom and in teamwork outside of the classroom, but also through all of the other activities that go on that are such a fundamental part of the MBA experience, all the clubs and the social life and the trips and so on, which are a big part of the networking and the wider experience that is really an important part of what you get out of an MBA program. And so that is absolutely true for INSEAD as it is for the top US schools. So when they look at your ability to contribute, the types of things they'll be looking at, they'll be looking for character traits, which they will pick up from your essays, from your recommendation letters. INSEAD also has video questions, and they will get data from that as well. And they will also look at specific elements like your extracurricular profile. So typically candidates who have a track record of getting engaged in extracurricular activities, both when they were students in their undergraduate years, but also in more recent times during their career. And so past and present, the schools like to see a track record of extracurricular engagement. The students who have that type of engagement are people who are more likely to get involved in the life of the school outside of the classroom, right? So somebody who For example, coaches a youth soccer team is someone who's more likely to get involved in a sports team when they're at school. And what the schools see is that a track record of extracurricular involvement means that students are more likely to get involved in the life of the school whilst they're a student. And they're also more likely to be involved in the alumni community. And of course, that's very important to the schools. They're looking to attract students who will be really active members of the alumni community, because that's such an important asset to the school and to the broader community.
That's what's similar, but now what's different, Caroline?
Yeah, right. So those are the three elements that are similar. And then what is different is that INSEAD is looking at your international motivation. So it is a very international program that's fundamental to the DNA of the school, and that has been the case since the school was founded. And so the school is looking to bring together a cohort of students who already have experience of being in multicultural environments. So they're looking to bring together students who come from a lot of different countries. So you'll be in a classroom with people from 70, 80 different countries, right? And there's no dominant nationality in the classroom. Typically, you won't have more than 10% of any individual nationality in the INSEAD community. And each individual has experience outside of their home country. And so they are looking to see if you've really sought out those experiences yourself. So typically, INSEAD students have worked or studied outside their home country. Now, not everyone has had that opportunity, right? And the school recognizes that. It's easier for some people than others. And so if you haven't had those opportunities, then think about how you can potentially showcase your international motivation in other ways. Perhaps you work for a multinational company and you work virtually in an international team, and you've had experiences of working with people from different cultures, and you've had to navigate some interesting situations where there have been some cultural differences, and that has been a learning experience for you. So definitely highlight those experiences. Perhaps you have made the effort to learn a different language, right? Languages are also important to INSEAD. And in fact, INSEAD does have a language policy. So to enter the program, as well as fluent English, you need a working knowledge so an intermediate knowledge of a second language by the time you start the program. You don't need that by the time you apply, but you will need that to be able to certify that by the time you join the program. And you'll need a basic knowledge of a third language by the time you graduate, because the school sees that language skills are very useful for international mobility, and they're looking to attract students who aspire to have a global career and who are looking to be internationally mobile. You also need to explain, right, especially if you don't have a lot of international experience in your background, why it's relevant for you to be in an international community, and how you're going to use that learning experience and to enrich your career, and why you want to have an international career in the future. And if you don't, right, that's not for everybody, then perhaps INSEAD is not the right school for you. Sometimes I talk to candidates who think about going to INSEAD but don't necessarily want to be internationally mobile post MBA. And perhaps INSEAD's not the best fit for them, because the wonderful thing about INSEAD compared to other top MBA programs, what INSEAD brings you compared to other top programs is that tremendous international diversity and that international platform. And I think that's a real differentiator, but that's not relevant to everyone. So I think, that's important to keep in mind.
Very true. And then the third thing you need to know, and I think this has to do with, how daunting the application may appear to some applicants. Am I right?
Right. So it's quite a long application, and I guess, I bear some responsibility for that. But it's, so yes, it is. It can look quite daunting compared to some of the other business school applications, because there are several essays and there are several elements to it, including video. There's written essays and there are video elements and so on. But what I would say to candidates is that take it as an opportunity to tell your story in all its multiple dimensions. And what I find with candidates, and I often work with candidates applying to INSEAD as well as applying to other schools, and sometimes at the start of the process they're very excited about applying to getting to work on the applications that are shorter, and they're kind of nervous about getting their teeth into the INSEAD application because it's longer. But what I see is at the end of the day, when they submit their applications, they're really proud of their INSEAD application because they feel that they've been able to tell their story in all of those multiple dimensions. And they feel that the school is genuinely interested in those different parts of the picture. And they haven't had to sort of distill things down as much as they have for some other schools. And they feel more confident about the picture that they've been able to convey to the school. And so I think that often that's an opportunity for candidates to really convey the breadth of their experience. And that's also an asset for candidates who perhaps have more diverse experience, right? It's often the case of people applying to INSEAD that they are a little bit older than the average MBA candidate. So typically students at INSEAD have about 5 to 6 years work experience, is a little bit older than the average for the top 2-year programs. And so it can be very useful if you've got a bit more experience, a bit more life experience, a bit more professional experience, to have that extra space in the application to tell your story and be able to showcase more aspects of your experience. So I would encourage candidates to see that as an opportunity and not a curse to have that the length of the application. But also do keep in mind that it does take some time to put that together, and you really can't shortcut the process. So I would encourage candidates to take some time to reflect and use that as an opportunity to take a step back from your day-to-day life and take a step back and think about, what are the strengths of your candidacy? What are the weaknesses that you need to work on? And it's fine. Everyone has weaknesses, and the school wants you to acknowledge those, right? That it's important to have the humility to acknowledge that you are not perfect, right? Because if you were perfect, then you probably don't need to go to business school and you don't have points for development. So it's important to have that self-knowledge and that self-awareness to understand what are your points for development and how can business school help you address those. So that deep reflection process is important because it's an important foundation that sort of feeds into being able to tell a reflective story about who you are in your application.
Great. Those are the 3 things you need to know: the similarities, the differences, and how to leverage that long application to your advantage. Caroline, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
All right, you've been listening to Caroline Diarte Edwards, a former admissions director at INSEAD, who is the co-founder of Fortuna Admissions. We've been talking about getting into INSEAD, the 3 things you need to know, sponsored by Fortuna Admissions. And if you'd like a free consult with Fortuna, Caroline, what should you do?
Yeah, we love chatting with candidates who think about applying to business school. And, frankly, the earlier the better, because sometimes we chat with people who are even, a few years out ahead of applying for business school. And there's a lot that you can do to prepare the ground. So please do come to us if you're just thinking about applying. You can come to our website, sign up for a free consultation. We love having those discussions, no strings attached. We really enjoy chatting with people about their options. We can advise you on your path, on schools that are a potentially good fit for you, on your strengths and weaknesses, any questions that you have about your path to business school.
And your URL is?
FortunaAdmissions.com.
Easy to remember. All right, everyone out there, thanks for watching and good luck on your MBA journey.